Hello, and this is Global Business Insights, where we look deeper at the headlines from a business perspective. Analysts are reacting to Donald Trump's speech yesterday, interpreting his comment on reducing interest rates as a plan to interfere in monetary policy and breaching the independence of the Federal Reserve. Others worry that higher tariffs will unleash fresh trade tensions, and I participated in an economist podcast of analysts that was minutes ago. Also listen to other analysts, and I will give feedback on the main takeaways. Billionaire Aliko Dangote has asked Nigeria to suspend imports of diesel and aviation fuel in a move that would hand his refinery a monopoly on their sale. Farouk Ahmed, head of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Regulatory Agency, told reporters, quote, "That is not good for the nation in terms of energy security, and that is not good for markets in terms of the monopoly." Some analysts say this obvious objective of Dangote is monopoly agreeing with the regulator. Unfortunately, diesel is already too expensive and largely unaffordable for users. Besides, the Dangote refinery cannot produce diesel that meets the standards, Organization of Nigeria standards, in terms of sulfur content. But the NMDPRA has granted a controversial waiver to Dangote high sulfur diesel. We expect an official reaction from Dangote Refinery soon on the matter. The Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority also said that the Nigerian government was yet to license the Dangote Refinery to begin operations in the country, as it was still in a pre-commissioning stage. An unprecedented IT outage this morning crippled businesses all over the globe. Computer systems of airlines, banks, and healthcare systems were disrupted after a botched update of a cybersecurity program took down Microsoft systems. CrowdStrike Holdings, said to be responsible for the faulty update. The CEO, George Kurtz, said the fault has been corrected, adding that it was not a cyber attack. About now, that's about 4:30 GMT. CrowdStrike shares are down 10.24%. Microsoft shares not much affected, 0.62%, also down. It's a day that still looks red for major indices. Google's biggest acquisition ever could be a $23 billion acquisition of Wiz, an Israeli cybersecurity startup, if antitrust regulators gave the deal the nod. Netflix reported earnings after the bell yesterday. Earnings per share came in at $4.88, better than 4.74 per share. That's dollars per share. Revenue also beat expectations at $9.56 billion. The Nigerian government and organized labor, after months of negotiations, have agreed minimum wage increases for workers as the government pushes one-time windfall taxes for FX-related incomes for banks. How Trump's speech was received depends on the hearer, from very evangelical excitement to an outright disaster. The speech seemed to have a scripted part for an audience and an unscripted one for another audience. The speech also was seen as not moving the needle in terms of converting voters, and there are very few, if any, undecided voters in the very divided situation. But it did the job of exciting Trump's traditional base. Clearly, more Trump voters will be motivated to vote, which was perhaps the main objective. The Vance pick, the VP pick, vice president, is actually getting more attention. A big question mark. He's a very loyal and definitely long-term play, no doubt, who actually articulated Trumpism better than Trump himself. On policy, it's well known that Trump always delegates the really detailed work. And will it be to Vance? What will Vance's role be? And will he get on well with Trump? To what extent will he influence Trump? A lot remains still unclear. There is a concern that Trump may not get the balance right in removing regulations, knowing which regulations need to remain and which can go. Many are still researching how the views of J.D. Vance have been shaped, who influences him, and so on. Vance is called an isolationist, sounding like a Bernie Sanders in one breath and leaning towards Elon Musk in another. One phrase that was used by Trump, quote, EV scam, implies a slowdown in an already slowing pace of achieving global climate change aspirations, another winner for fossil fuel energy. As Trump said, he will get America drilling again from day one. It's still way too early, in my view, to dwell on the polls and conclude on who will win this race. Businesses should have very clear contingency actions, whichever way it goes at the November elections. We may still get some black swan events that could have material impact. Google is eyeing Wiz cybersecurity technology, which helps clients identify security risks in the cloud, such as which employees are using which apps or who has a weak password, also allowing customers to spot vulnerabilities that hackers could exploit. $23 billion is a lot, but Alphabet can afford it, and Wiz looks worth it. As the cloud market rapidly expands, cybersecurity services will also take off. Analysts see businesses spending around $300 billion worldwide on cloud services in the near term, implying new security vulnerabilities and, of course, new opportunities for startups like Wiz. In 2023, we saw global sales of cloud security products up by about 32%. Compare that to 13% growth for computer security overall. So there is definitely a bias to spend more on cloud cybersecurity, which is a space where the big spenders are also found. Wiz has cornered the cloud cybersecurity niche, while others mostly sell firewalls and other safeguards for traditional information technology systems. The second change that we see that is helping this deal, driving this deal, is increasing preference for one-stop shops to avoid duplications and save money. One-stop shops are easier to manage and tools talk to each other. This has encouraged acquisitions. According to JP Morgan Chase, we've seen over 50 security firms having been acquired this year. We're talking about cybersecurity firms more than in all of 2022 or 2023. Regulators will frown at the market strength this confers on Alphabet. This deal helps Alphabet up its game in fighting Microsoft in the cloud space. Still, regulators are more likely to conclude that the Wiz deal may hurt other smaller cyber players and presents distinct advantages for Google in a way they may not want to see. So it's 50-50. Netflix reported results beating on both top and bottom line as it makes gains in advertising targeting on top of 274.4 million paid memberships. A cheaper ad-supported tier has also been a success in addition to its crackdown on password sharing. Netflix said its advertising tier now accounts for 45% of sign-ups in markets where it is available, but they don't see this as a primary driver of revenue growth until much later in 2024 or 2025. In the first quarter, Netflix warned it will no more disclose quarterly membership numbers or average revenue per user beginning next year. Instead, it will focus metrics on revenue and operating margin as primary financial metrics, and will report on engagement, that is time spent, as a measure of customer satisfaction. Netflix is smart to pivot metrics to more about profitability and satisfaction indicators. Subscriptions could be meaningless as income implications, depending more on the mix that you have, but this could also be a way to mask market share losses. But subscriptions still count. Netflix added 8 million new subscribers in Q2 thanks to its hit shows. Apart from clever use of metrics, Netflix has been moving in the lucrative sports event space, leading to speculation that it would soon sign a big deal with a sports league. Netflix also says, though it's experimenting with artificial intelligence to drive more engagement with its users to improve discovery and recommendations, but focus, they say, still has to be on the quality of storytelling. So far, whatever Netflix is doing, they seem to be getting their marketing right, and they seem to be cementing their market grip despite all the competition as more increasingly move away from linear TV. The new minimum wage for Nigerian workers reported to have been agreed at 70,000 naira. That's just $43, up from 30,000 naira, more than double the previous rate. This was according to the Minister of Information, Mohammed Idris, at a briefing. Execution will not be easy for some of the states who struggled to pay the previous minimum wage and who had workers and pensioners going for months without pay. Private businesses also have to absorb higher costs with higher pay for their lower skilled workers. This could put some pressure on inflation and can help as domestic consumption improves. This is, of course, going to be seen as a first step by workers who expected more, and they see this as a continuous adjustment process guided by several principles. One, there has to be a shift to a more people-centric government which encourages provision of decent wages starting from government wages, which also must be linked more to published inflation metrics. The other principle that's important is affordability, which is linked to better productivity and efficiency. Smaller technology-enabled government enables higher pay for knowledge work, also implying much greater investment in upgrading skills and education. If skills are not upgraded as you increase pay, obviously you could have a situation of higher unemployment. This also means reforms or rethink of some of the fiscal structures. So some states are not bearing costs they cannot possibly afford. There are many difficult trade-offs that won't be resolved in a year, but what is clear is that the American-type democracy that is practiced in Nigeria is rather expensive for what Nigeria can afford, and we may need a different governance model with different fiscal structures. The solution certainly is not to perpetuate low wages, which are wiped out by inflation and stokes acute discontent. Beyond wages, there are other important issues for the government and private sector workforce, such as digitization, improving productivity, efficiency, and transforming the work culture to be more performance-oriented. Like I said in the previous chat, I do agree with windfall taxes, but they have to be focused, they have to be justified, they have to be fair, they have to be measured and time limited, noting the broader need is for a more attractive business environment in Nigeria that is more de-risked. European stocks were lower as investors considered yesterday's ECB interest rate decision and a global IT outage at cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike, stoking fear and a sell-off. If you look at Europe, the stocks mostly closed and in the red. Europe 50, stocks Europe 50 down 0.6%, Europe 600 down 0.77%, FTSE 250 down 0.78%, FTSE 100 down 0.6%, the German DAX also down 1%. On Wall Street, stocks retreated as it looked like it was ending the week defined by a rotation towards equities much more sensitive to hopes of easing interest rates. Nasdaq down 0.75%, Dow 30 down 0.87%, S&P 500 also down 0.58%. Well, that's it from me on Global Business Insights. This is Bode Oshosami. Thanks for sharing and following or subscribing on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube and X. Please send your comments. Again, thank you very much for watching. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.